All right, it looks like we're recording. So we're here with Mothers Illuminated to light up the pathway to motherhood. And we're here with Yetunde today. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yetunde.
Yetunde.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And so tell us a little bit about what you do.
Okay, so well, I'm a mom of a soon-to-be 11-year-old, and which is amazing to realize. But anyway, he's almost 11, and I actually have two hats that I wear. So the first one is I have a company called Let's Eat the World. It is a culinary travel agency, and I actually create programs with other tour operators and chefs, mainly cooks and local guides that have food as the center to introduce people to cultures. So it started off in France, and now I just put my latest tour online, which is in Colombia. So hence why it's Let's Eat the World. So in the beginning, it didn't make a lot of sense to some people because it was, I started this in France and they're like, let's eat the world. Okay. And I go, yes, it's going to get bigger. Just hang on.
We're just starting, guys. Come on.
Yeah. And then my other job is that I also work as the marketing director for my husband's cooking school, which is based in Paris and has been in operation for 17 years. So I haven't always been involved because I had a previous life, and I was doing a vacation rental company in Paris, which I sold in 2013, and then we moved and so on. So what I do is always centered around food and tourism and culture and learning experiences that are fun and always delicious.
Yes, I love that. So first of all, as a big foodie, I absolutely think that sounds so fun. My biggest dream is to end up in Italy. I just can't wait to eat my way through Italy. That's, France is a big one too, though. So I totally see the appeal
No,
there.
I was just in Italy. I was just in Italy.
Were you?
Yeah, because I just did the first of our Let's Eat Parma tour. And what a lot of people don't think about is that when Italian food comes to mind, you're going to probably run off quite a number of things that are from Parma. Parma is the food valley of Italy. So when you think Parmesan cheese, Parma. When you think prosciutto, Parma. When you think, or Emilia-Romagna, the region of Emilia-Romagna where Parma is located. When you think of balsamic vinegar, Emilia-Romagna. When you think of fast cars too, Lamborghini, all the rest of them, they're all up there.
Yeah. That's so cool. So do you guys do a digital nomad kind of life where you travel to different countries, or?
No, I mean, although we just came back, my family and I just came back from a 18 country tour that we did for almost a year. But that was just something that we had been talking about before my son was ever born. We're like, we want to do this. And then we decided that this was the time, or maybe never. So we did that. But no, we live in Seville, Spain. And so we used to live in France. I lived in France for 17 years, and we moved to Spain in 2021, and have been here ever since. So I'm based here. What happens is for the tours, it depends on which tour it is, but usually if it's a France tour, it's a Spain tour, I'm there. Or my husband's there because he's the chef for our France tours. In Spain, I have a Spanish chef. In Italy, I had an Italian chef, and that's basically the idea. It's either it's a chef, or for some places, it's not necessarily a chef, because the chef is, the one who's talking about the traditional culture, our chefs. Yes. But sometimes it's the mamas and the grandmothers and the who are going to bring us that authentic component,
that old world.
Exactly. So it really depends on the location, but it is definitely something that's chef approved. One, because I went to culinary school, was not my first ambition in life, but I always loved food anyway. So it was like life too, let's say. And then I got involved with the chef. My whole point of going to culinary school is I wanted to be able to work with chefs. I wanted to be able to speak their language, and for them to not give me back talk about how you could or couldn't do this, because I'd be like, I think you can. So that was really the focus there. So we're not nomads. We live permanently in Spain.
Yeah.
My company is a Spanish company as of about a year now. And yeah, that's it. That's where we are.
That's so cool. So you create these programs to kind of help people. So tell us a little bit more about these programs. Is it like are they like recipe books? Are they, actually come to the country and experience it? What does the program look like?
So it's a culinary vacation. So, I mean, I do a couple of different things, but the big ones are the culinary holidays. So these holidays could go from 5.5 days to 10 days. So my newest one, my Colombia one, is 10 days. My shortest one is in Paris, because a lot of people who do the Paris one know Paris, and they have like all their favorite things that they want to do. And the Paris one takes place at the cooking school that my husband has there. Where they'll do pastry. So there's more pastry involved in that one than in the other tours, where there might be dessert recipes, but it's not really the focus so much. So the first one that we ever did was actually back in 2016 in the south of France, in a medieval city called Uzès. And the whole premise was that we wanted to be able to do certain recipes with people that we couldn't do in half days. So things that take time, that you have to wait 3 hours for it to really be ready, and processes that you start on Monday that you need to finish on Wednesday, like bread making, those kind of things. So that was actually the benchmark for the other tours that I've developed. And I go to the locations, I meet with the local guides, sometimes working with other travel agents that are locally based to test everything out and to see if I want to be on that tour. If I want to be on that tour, then I can convince you that you need to be on that tour, because, it's exciting. We're not only spending our time in the kitchen. So this is not some kind of, you're not getting a diploma or anything like that. At the end of this, you're going to get, thank you for participating. You're going to get lots of recipes. Again, depends on the tour. But you're going to get food experiences, because for me, the best room in the house is the kitchen. I think about parties that you've gone to. You tell all your guests, come on, I've set everything up in the living room. Please join me in the living room. And where do you find them? Standing in your kitchen. Because that's
the kitchen is the heart of the home. That's what I always say.
So, everybody wants to be in the kitchen, and some people have dining rooms and they find themselves always eating with their family in the kitchen because if the kitchen is big enough. So there's just something, this food connects us in ways that a lot of other things don't. I think when we sit down at the table together, we share our stories, we share our point of view, we share our opinions. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good. It really depends. But it's a feast. It's a feast for the eyes, for the palate, and it's a really good way for you to learn about a culture. Like, why do they use this? But why did they use this tradition and they don't do something, different? For me, being very food conscious and food oriented, whenever I travel, I want to find the market. I want to know where people are buying their food, and I see what kinds of foods they are, because I'm always curious to know, is it the same? Is it different? And, with globalization, we have a lot of the same things now, true. But when I was first traveling, it was very different. And you could really see a big contrast. And even sometimes just the way that they stack things in the supermarket, like what the priorities are. So if you walk in to a market in Spain, you're going to see a lot of pork, because they eat a lot of pork here. It's going to be jamón.
It's funny because that makes sense, but I wouldn't have thought of that. Just the way that they present things in the supermarket to prioritize the things of that culture.
But do you remember during the pandemic what each country decided was like an essential thing? I thought it was really funny because for some people it was like beer and sausages. So those had to stay open.
Right.
For the French,
so
it was like
I'm in the US, and it was like as soon as COVID happened, first thing that happened was all the toilet paper was sold out everywhere.
So there you see what the priorities are.
It's like, leave it to the Americans to buy up all the toilet paper. And then but it was sad. All the mom and pop shops closed down, and it was just the big chains that stayed open, And
And that's very important what you're saying there, because that's the other part of this tour. I try to find those small producers, we try to look for, I love people with a story. I love people who are passionate about what they do and that can transmit that, which can sometimes get lost in the bigger company because, the employee may care about their job, but it's not their company. So they'll tell the story, but it's not exactly the same story as if you've got the owner of the vineyard who's taking you through his vines, and you just look at the expression on his face when he's picking up the dirt and going, smell this dirt, it's like
yeah, and I feel like those are the ones too, like they've been in it for generations, and so it has like a special sentiment. It's like my grandpa, helped seed this dirt, and look how amazing and rich it is. And for most people, it's like, it's just dirt. What are you talking about? But for them, like that's their whole family's livelihood over generations.
And likely you're going to go home afterwards and you're going to look at the dirt in your backyard a little differently.
Yeah. Look at the potential here. Yeah. So with all of your travels, what's been your favorite place to go?
Oh my God, that's always a difficult question. I am, I think of myself as a tree with no roots, not in the sense where I don't have any background, because I have a rich background. What I mean is I can really be anywhere. And there's something unique about every place on this planet. We live in a beautiful world, and there's so much to discover. I loved when we were in Costa Rica because I loved all the animals. I thought, wow, this is amazing. You didn't have to go to a zoo. And in fact, I'm like, I don't think I'm ever going to a zoo again because, these animals don't belong behind these cages. This is where they belong.
I know. I know. My oldest keeps asking. She's like, "Can we go to a zoo? I want to see all the animals." I'm like, we'll just watch the Discovery Channel where they're like happy and
And I used to love zoos, so I'm like, but now I feel, I'm conscious. I'm like, okay, well, we're not going to the zoo. Sorry, and no circuses with animals either. Sorry, can't do that. But yeah, so Peru was a big one for me as well, because again, I love Peruvian food, and it was just like, it was a food orgy. It was just amazing. So many of the foods that we eat throughout the world now came out from there. We can't think of Italian food without thinking about tomatoes, but the tomato didn't originate in Italy. It came from South America. So being
I didn't actually know that. That's interesting.
Well, see, but that's one of the things. It's like, to show the connection to all of these things that we eat. The potato. Peru has over 4,000 varieties of potatoes.
I feel like I can't even imagine what the flavor difference would be. 4,000 different potatoes,
but they are different. Different textures, different uses. You've heard that people will say, like, for example, you have potatoes that are good for making French fries. Because if you try to make French fries with another potato, you're like, well, that one wasn't crispy, but there's a reason, because one has more starch and there's all kinds of different things. So there's a potato that people go to when they're making fries, and it's not a new potato. That one you could saute. It's going to be a binge, for example. So it's little things like that. But I loved Peru. I loved the markets in Peru. I loved Mexico, which is also on my coming up tours list, because I've got 5 destinations in total that I am trying to quickly rush and get them out there, because I've been in the planning stage of some of them for the last year. So it takes time to put these tours together, and they're always in small groups. I want to stress that, and small groups mean different things to different people. For me, small groups does not go past 8 people. 8 for me is already pushing it. And the reason I prefer that is because really it's actually overwhelming for a chef or a cook to have to deal with so many more people. And what ends up happening is it becomes more demo, because they're like, okay, this is going too slow. Let's hurry up here. And when you have that size of group, everybody gets to do something. Everybody's involved. And it's more like you're in a family unit, and I'm big on family units. So, it's sort of like a family unit. You're spending time with all these people during your 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 days. But there's a lot of free time too. So it's not like, okay, wait, just cook. We go on excursions, we do tastings, we meet local guides and producers who teach us a little bit more about the history. So I was personally loved history class, and I know a lot of people did not. And I understand, because people feel like it just droned on and on and on. But this is history, living history. This is telling people's story now, stuff that you may or may not see on National Geographic. Well, hopefully, because I love National Geographic. So, they do good coverage.
Yeah.
But some of the little things that you wouldn't know unless you spoke to someone who was there locally. Yeah.
I love that. And I think that's where, like you said, that living history kind of comes to life, because when I was a kid, I hated history. I love it now as an adult. I'm like, this is so interesting and fascinating. But as a kid, I absolutely hated it. But you're right. It's like there's something so different about being there and living it and walking the paths that other people walked and learning what the culture was like through all those different generations, and being there to actually talk with people who witnessed it firsthand, So that's so cool. And so when you're doing these different group tours, and no more than 8 people, what all is included? So obviously, I would assume the expenses of all these events are included. Does that cover like airfare, lodging, like what's all included?
So the airfare is not covered, nor visas if they're needed. For the moment, I haven't had destinations where visas were needed, but that's probably going to start happening. But the airfare is not covered. But you have the accommodations are covered in all but the Paris tour. The Paris tour doesn't have accommodations. It's the only one that's like that. But all the other ones have your accommodations. You have your meals. Sorry, it's the alarm for my son's pickup, but my husband's gonna go. So it's for your the meals. Most of the meals are covered, or at least 2 meals in the day. So it's half board. It's going to be all the excursions that we go on, the transportation between the excursions that we go on. For the case of Colombia, we're going to actually be in 2 different cities, which is unique, because usually I keep us in one place, mainly because I want people to really get to know. I want them to start to feel like, oh, there's my local bakery. Oh, that's my, like they're at home. But there was so much to do in Colombia that I said, okay, yeah, we're going to do Cartagena and we're going to do Medellin. So there's an internal flight in there that is also included. And if there is any like internal transportation between one destination or the other, that's obviously included as well. So all our visits, the majority of your meals, your accommodations, except Paris, as I said, and all the fun that you can have.
So these groups, are they typically, single adults? Are they couples? Are they families? I would imagine if you have a max of 8 people and some of these events that you're doing, you probably don't want young kids there.
So for the moment, it's just all adults. The youngest participant I ever had was 17 because he came with his mom, and I said, okay, well, fine. And he was big foodie and so on. The groups depend, because I don't construct the group in the sense where I go, oh, I can only have this kind of person or this kind of person. So sometimes I'll have couples. Sometimes I have retirees. Sometimes I have people who are still working. Sometimes I have, a lot of times actually I have solo travelers. There's a lot of solo women travelers who have joined the different programs that we have. I have a program that's coming up in Seville, my Let's Eat Seville tour, where I've got, actually I think the group is made up about 3 single people and 1 couple. So it really varies. But obviously then when it's 8, it can be, I don't know, it depends. Depends on the group dynamic. I've had a group where I had 7 women who were all singles. Some came as friends, some came by themselves. And what was the other thing I was going to say about the groups? Can't remember. Slipped my mind now, so sorry.
That's all right. So yeah, that's super cool. I was, I'm wondering, like, are you open to doing stuff in the future that involves, you know, children and stuff? It's so funny. I'm sitting here listening. I'm like, I want to go on these things, but of course I've got
I
four
know,
small
but
children.
it depends. I guess it would still be dependent on the age of the child. Like, okay, so we traveled to 18 countries with our 9 going on 10-year-old, and it was cool in the beginning. He loves doing cooking classes. I mean, heck, during the pandemic, I put him on YouTube and he had his own little cooking show, kept him busy.
I love that.
But there's certain things that they're just going to be bored. So you have to think, if I'm able to design a program that my son would be my kid approved program, you know, it would probably have a lot more, I guess it would have to have a lot more kid activities, like, you know, taking them to an amusement park or an interactive museum or something like that. But I mean, it's something to think about, but that might be the next business, as opposed to the one that's now. Let's Eat the World really is for adult travelers, couples, singles, young, older, working, retired, anybody who really wants to dive into a destination, right? Because this is slow travel. We're not running around to different places. I say that, and the reason I'm saying is because I'm thinking about 2 different clients on the same tour, who one, when he was going in and he looked at the itinerary, he was worried that there was too much free time. Which he kind of laughed about at the end, because he was like, thank God for that free time, you know, because kept him busy. So that there has to be free time, because you need to digest, literally and figuratively. You know, you need to take in what you've seen. So that's an important part of each tour. I try to balance it out as well as I can, to not make it too overwhelming and not too underwhelming either, because you know, I don't want people to be worried that there's nothing to do. There's always going to be something going on. And your free time is actually meant for you to go exploring. I've given you all the tools. I'm giving you a guide. I've given you restaurant suggestions. I've told you where you can find this and about the transportation. So please use the free time to go and do just that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I love that. So let's kind of dive a little bit more into, you know, you and traveling, and, you know, you had your 9-year-old with you when you guys were traveling. So tell us a little bit more about like what that was like, traveling with your was it son?
Yeah, my son.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Sometimes it was great for him. Like, for example, he would surprise us with the things that would interest him in certain places. Even before this particular tour, he and his father came with me to do the exploratory visit that I did to Parma to create this tour. And we went to see the Parmigiano Reggiano. And my son was asking really cool questions, you know, and I was really surprised. So it was interesting to him, because they were telling him how it was made, and then he was seeing that there were these numbers on some of the cheeses, and he goes, "What do these numbers mean?" And he was like, "Wow, really good question." You know, nobody else thought about it. You know, he loved some of the museums until he didn't.
Museum overload.
He's like, that's all we do is go to museums. I'm like, that is so not true, which is not true, exaggerating. We did a lot of cooking classes, and he loved those, because, you know, he got to show off a little bit that, I can cook. See, I can cook. And then he got to eat what he cooked. So it was really fun.
Yeah.
His favorite was Japan, because he loves sushi.
Yes.
So every time everybody asks him, what was your favorite? It's like, Japan.
Yeah.
Which one do you remember? Japan.
Yeah. All the sushi. Love it.
All the sushi. Yeah. So it was challenging sometimes, obviously, because, you know, I mean, putting the balance between you want to learn about stuff and you're walking around versus the child's attention level. It's not always easy. Plus, he was alone. He was the only kid. Sometimes he would hang out with other kids that we would meet in a park, or if we were in a destination long enough, then he could befriend somebody and meet them again. We were in South Africa, and he played chess with an American tourist who saw him playing chess. Oh, you play chess? And so they played together. So
oh, that's so sweet.
yeah. So it was all these. I think that he's going to look at it in retrospect and be like, "Whoa, that was an amazing year of my life."
Right? Yeah, that's amazing. It's funny. So actually, my family's started kind of trying to prep. I think we're going to do that next year.
That is
we're planning
cool.
on kind of doing a big traveling thing too. So we've been kind of planning out where we want to go and all those things. And Japan is definitely, my husband and I are big sushi people. None of our kids are though. And I'm like, what is going on here? So we'll see. Maybe we can get them on board before we get out there, right?
But maybe they'll become that way when they get there. Who knows? But the thing, if I can give one tip to anybody who wants to do an extended trip like that and go to multiple destinations, is make your wish list. Try to put them in order that makes sense geographically, so you're not going like this, and then be ready for the fact that it's not going to happen. That some places won't happen. Seriously, because what it is like we didn't buy all the tickets. First of all, we couldn't; it's just impossible. But we learned a lesson from our friends who were also doing a tour when the pandemic hit. Because they had prepaid a lot of stuff and they lost like half of what they had. I mean, and I'm like, I can't do that. So we would plan where we wanted to go next. We had some places where it had to be a specific date, so that needed to be booked ahead. But some other ones that had a little bit more flexibility, so we could say, I'm really enjoying our time here. Can we stay another couple of days before we move on? And then we'd plan it that way. We used every mode of transportation. We didn't only fly. We took the bus. We didn't do any train actually, but we had an RV, rental motorhome in Australia. We took a boat between Panama and Colombia, which was fun except for the last 2 days, which was like, oh, I want to get off this boat.
You're like, I'm done with this sea life. What is this?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that one being out on the Caribbean Sea. That was rough. That was really rough.
Really?
Oh my God, yes. It was. I had to sleep up on deck. I couldn't sleep down below anymore.
Oh no.
It was like nothing. It's impossible. I was like, oh, is it raining? I don't care. I'm still sleeping up here.
Oh my goodness. That's too cute. So you went around and you traveled for 18 different countries in 1 year. So you said your favorite was like Peru. You really enjoyed Peru. What about your husband and your son? Obviously, really enjoyed Japan.
My son was Japan. My husband also, like me, well, didn't. It's hard to say what was your favorite. We went to so many different places, so many different cultures. So we did spend most of our time in Central and South America. That was the big chunk of the period. So then the rest was like, we kind of had to rush to get to the last bits, but we were also on the African continent. We were in Tanzania. I said before, we were in South Africa. Tanzania was really nice, was really amazing. Amazing because one day we went down into, and I'm going to actually have a tour in Tanzania. So that was part of the reason I wanted to go there. I wanted to go there because I'd heard about the Spice Islands. And I'm like, yes, I want to go. I want to go to Zanzibar. So that was my whole thing. So Tanzania was amazing because we got to go into a crater. We didn't go to the Serengeti because we were supposed to be going on a safari in South Africa. So I'm like, safaris are not cheap. So we went into the Ngorongoro crater and we saw everything.
Wow.
It was amazing. And I was like, wow, damn, this planet is beautiful. It's like, really?
I love that so much. Oh my God.
It was amazing. And, when you go on something like that, you honestly, the guide will do their best. They cannot guarantee you'll see anything. Yeah. But they'll try. I mean, they're good spotters. So they will, but there was just like, how could you miss them? They were just everywhere. Everywhere you looked, there was something. So that was another
Wow.
one of my favorites. So yeah, the things that had to do with animals probably were ones
Yeah.
that stuck out in my mind a lot. And I did love Japan, and I loved South Korea too. We did South Korea
Mm.
as well. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say which specific one. I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
you know, there's a lot of places that I would go back to for sure. I mean,
Mhm.
most of them I would return to, because we didn't, you can only do so much in
Yeah.
even just 3 weeks. Is like, it's not enough.
Not enough time. Yeah. Were there any
No,
places that you guys visited and you're like, maybe we should get out of here a little early? We're not super keen on this, or
we didn't get out early, but I am not going to name names. But there are places where I felt we spent way too much time and it could have been condensed and over with a lot quicker.
yeah.
But I will not be naming names. I don't want to offend anybody. And I feel
Right.
like perhaps if in a different situation, maybe then it would have been different. I mean, there were things that I really did love about it, but
Yeah.
I think I would have cut off some of that to add on to some other places that sadly didn't get enough time because we
Yeah.
spent too much in this one.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it was just little things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. And then so now you guys are back home and you're
Yes.
kind of, more settled. So how long have you been back home now?
Since June.
Okay.
So my son started a new school year in a new school and had to
Mhm.
readjust from being like, solo kid,
Yeah.
basically
I was gonna
thinking
say,
he
what was
was
that adjustment like? I would imagine
it,
that's,
in the beginning. It was
crazy.
a little tough. It was a little tough
Yeah.
in the beginning, but kids are amazing. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think that mine is particularly unique in that amazingness. I think that kids are very resilient. Do not abuse them. Don't overestimate them. It's actually making me think of a post that I saw that I was gonna do some sort of follow up on, because there's there's a lot of people now who start doing van life stuff, right? And
Yeah.
they take their kids on there. And I think that there might be some people who do not have enough conversations with their children to see how doing these things affect them. And there
Yeah.
was a girl who did this post on Reddit,
Mm.
Reddit, right?
Yeah.
That the poor child, she's not even a child anymore. She's like 18 now. She's been doing this almost all her life, and she is so upset.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, I think our son said to us we had to be back so he could go to camp. And we respected that. Even
Yeah.
though, it cut off some of the time that we wanted to do stuff. I was like, all right, fine. He wants to get back to the heat in
Yeah.
Seville, and because he wants to go to camp, we'll do
Yeah.
it. So, we did that. And then we, having the conversation about what do you want to do, or making sure that we put things in there that were not necessarily for us, that were for him, like, going to some kid adventure parks, or
Yeah.
or spending more time at the pool rather than
Yeah.
going out to learn about some other piece of local culture. So
Yeah. Yeah.
his adjustment back to school was not too bad, because he's a social kid. He enjoys he likes school. I mean, he
Yeah.
complains about it, but for the most part I think he likes school. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's too cute. Yeah. We do homeschooling at our
okay.
house. And so I practice a lot of like talking to our kids to make sure that, like, first of all, we're teaching them things that they actually want to learn. They all learn the basics, obviously,
Right.
but beyond that, we kind of take a more of like an unschooling sort of approach. So it's whatever the kid's interested in. So literally, like, every August or July or so, we'll sit down with them and be like, all right, what do you want to learn this year? Like, what are things that you're interested in? What kind of classes do you want to take? What kind of things can we get you set up in? And I agree. I think not enough parents like really talk with their kids and listen to them and allow them to have that input in how the families run, So I agree. I think that if you're going to be doing a traveling lifestyle, having that input from them is going to be huge.
Yeah.
We were talking because we're planning on starting traveling next year. So we've been talking with them about which places, kind of finding fun, like theme parks that we can take the kids to in different places. And Japan has the Disney World type of thing, which is like
It
super cool
does.
looking. So I was like,
And I
oh,
hear
maybe
that
we'll
it's
do
super
that. And
expensive.
Yeah.
I have a friend who lives
Same
in
thing as in the
Tokyo.
States then.
I have a friend who lives in
Yeah.
Tokyo. She's like, oh my God, it's so expensive. I said, okay.
Yes, I think there's definitely a lot of stuff that's expensive, but
Yeah. But taking the train is so much fun. Your kids are going to love taking the train in
yeah,
Japan. Yeah.
really.
It's really, yeah, no, it's good fun. It's good fun. Japan and Korea inspired me to write this one blog about kind of a lost in translation kind of thing, where you're standing and you're looking up at these signs, and not only is this a language you don't know, it's a writing you don't know, and you're sitting there trying to figure your way around, and Google Translate became a good friend. I'm like holding it up and translating this. Had this heated conversation with one person. He's typing in, I'm typing in. We're both going
yelling at each other in Google Translate.
I was like, yes, we have a reservation, and he's like, no, you don't.
Oh, that's too funny.
But it's part of the adventure. So even the mishaps are part of the adventure. Thankfully, we never missed a plane.
Yeah.
I can't even believe that I could say that. No luggage went missing, no plane. We did lose some things along the way. My son lost his glasses on a Delta flight, and he never seemed to have found them. So we had to get new glasses. And the funny thing is, we had a couple of medical things we had to do, which happened in really good locations. Like he decided to wait until we were out at open sea to suddenly start running a temperature, because
of course, yeah.
And I was
children
like, you want
timing
to come to get you now or what? And so, I had some stuff with me, so I'm like keeping it calm. I said, we're going to be in Colombia soon. And so it was he had a dental issue, and we took him to a local contact, an agency actually that I'm going to be working with on the Colombia tour. She told me, oh, go to this clinic or go to this area. And so I found this pediatric dental office, and I walk in and I'm like, oh, well, this is posh.
I was going to say, doesn't Colombia have a lot of dental touristry, right?
Yes.
Oh
my God, it was amazing.
Yeah.
They were so nice, and they're sending me message afterwards, how's Remy, how everything is okay. I'm like, whoa, this is nice. Okay. I had to go because sleeping, as I said, I slept on top of on deck, right? So my back was totally messed up, and I can't lift anything anymore. So I had to go to the hospital, and that was, it was very regulated, and it was, didn't take too long, but I had to go here, then I had to go here to pay, then I had to come back here. And so it's interesting to see how everything worked, but I have zero complaints about the healthcare that we received in Colombia. Same for Panama. Australia, my son had to get his glasses, and they do special things for children. So the glasses, he got posh glasses that were reasonably priced. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say in the US, everything like healthcare is so expensive here. So it's actually very common. A lot of people go down into Mexico or some of those, South American countries to get dental work done, or to get, any more expensive treatments, because in the US it's just so expensive.
Oh, don't remind me. I lived there for 20 years. I remember.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so it's anyway. I'm a big traveler. I love to travel, and so it just this has all come together. I've combined all the elements of the things that I love to do, and I'm grateful that I'm able to do that. And it's growing. It's growing little by little. I'm really hoping to get people to Georgia, the country, because I had an amazing experience there, unexpected. I don't know if you've ever gone to a destination with zero expectations. Zero, right?
Yeah.
I met these people at a tourism expo, and I was actually talking to the people for Turkey because I've been to Turkey and I really loved Istanbul and I love Turkish food. So I said, "Oh yeah, I'll do something with Turkey." And the guy at the Turkish stand said, "Well, we don't really do things with food so much. I mean, we could probably help you put something together, but you really need to go talk to those guys over there in Georgia." And I was like, "Really? Oh, okay." So,
Yeah.
I'm a curious
That's so
person.
funny.
So
Georgia's
I
actually been
walk
on our
over.
list. Yeah.
Yeah, so I want you should go. I walk over to the Georgia stand, and the first I said, "Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know anything about your country, zero." And I said, "Please educate me." And the first thing that she did was to give me wine and food. I was like, "Yep, we're already starting off really well here."
Right. This is where I need to go.
Wine and food. And
Love
so
it.
she was like, "Oh, you should come. You should come." So I said, "Okay, well, we're about to leave on a world tour. I wasn't planning on making any trips before then because that's already going to be intense, but let me see if I can fit this in." And I did. And I went for a couple of days, like maybe 5 or 6 days. And what an experience. The food, the landscape, the people, the generosity, it was really, really amazing. I mean, Georgian food I didn't know anything about Georgian food. And I'm like, wow, it's really delicious. I realized after a couple of days that we've been eating vegetarian the whole time, and I hadn't even noticed. I was like, oh, right, I'm not a vegetarian. So I just didn't notice because it was just so flavorful. It was so, and everybody's making their own cheese and everybody's making their own wine, and they're all making their own cha-cha, which cha-cha, I warn you, be careful. The cha-cha when you go to Georgia. It's like it's a liquor that they make, and wow. Okay. Woof, knock you off your feet.
Yeah. I'll have to avoid that one then.
Yeah, that one is but you will be offered cha-cha. I mean, they're all constantly offering you things to eat and drink, but it was a good experience. And I'm hoping that next year we have 2 remaining dates next year in June and in September. And I'm hoping to get some people to come on board because I think they're going to be pleasantly surprised. And yeah.
I was gonna say, I know Georgia is like famous for their wine. The Georgian wine is supposed to be so good.
Yeah, they're people are calling orange wine because it's got that amber. It's an amber color, and they still use the amphors that are in the ground that they call cuivres. And they can sometimes be just like the size of a room almost. Wow. But it's all buried underground. One of the wine makers told this story that when his kid was little, like the thing was empty, but his son was peeking inside and keeps looking inside and falls, and he fell inside.
Oh my God.
Thankfully, it was not one of the really, really deep ones, but
right. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oops. Yeah.
Oh.
So it's the little stories that people tell like that I love too, because it helps you remember. It remembers, then you really dive into the experience and the local culture. So
yeah,
met some very nice people.
Yeah. So besides the more hands-on going out, seeing these cultures and building out your programs, what is the day-to-day of, being a mom who's an entrepreneur and building a business and, kind of the less sexy side of everything? What does that look like?
Well, let's see. So I have help with, the school in Paris. So I have a marketing assistant, and she kind of helps me a little as well. A lot. I want to say a little bit. No, a lot also with Let's Eat the World, as far as the social media is concerned, things like that. I have the world's craziest looking calendar. That's because I've got many calendars at the same time. I've got the calendar for the school in Paris. I've got my son's school calendar on there. I've got my own calendar. And so sometimes finding those I have a lot of alarms that go off. Tell me that I've got to do this and I've got to be there. I'm also part of a business group, a women's business group. They helped me a lot, especially I actually found them on Facebook, I think. The post must have come up, and because I can't remember the exact details. I think I was too traumatized, like many people during the pandemic,
Yeah.
that I was like starting to just lose faith in the world. And they really helped me keep it together and helped me put together plans and structures that I'm still using, and that have helped me a lot to really look at the financial parts, to look at to look at the creative aspect. I think thanks to that, I'm making critical decisions more rapidly. Like the old me, for example, would have accepted that my accountant was only just, okay.
Yeah.
And, and the new me is like, oh no, this is not working for me. I pay you and you can't explain this to me. It's time for you to go. That's it. And it, giving me, just empowering me to be comfortable with my own decisions, to get over a little bit more of my imposter syndrome, which still exists. Like, for example, I was like, should I really be on this podcast?
Yes, you should.
It's like, I don't know. Do I even have enough to say? I mean, I talk a lot, but do I have anything of interest to say? I don't know.
Yes.
So and then obviously I put an alarm in there to go, okay, I've got to go pick up my son. And I did something new this year, which was in part to stop him from always saying he doesn't know what to do or complaining about how he's doing everything, which please, no, you're not.
Right. Yeah.
I actually made a house schedule, and I made sure that we were all on it. And I said, okay, so everybody gets a day off. That's for you. Do what you like. This is what we have to get done. Be sure that you look at your chore chart to figure out what you're supposed to. So I've got responsibilities. You have responsibilities. So you don't think all I'm doing is just working on my computer, which is something he's complained about all his life because I've always worked from home with So he's like, oh, you're always working. And I go, that's not true, but I have to work, and don't make me feel bad about having to work because we got to get stuff done. We do a lot of great things. He has access to his parents more than a lot of people do. And so it's I think we're doing okay. We try to communicate. We have our differences because we grew up in different cultures. My husband's French. I'm Nigerian by birth. I lived in the United States, but as I explained to my friends, you got to my doorstep and the US was behind me, and you walked into Nigeria, and that's it. So it was very different backgrounds, and when it comes to discipline, we have different styles. I'm probably the stricter parent. He's the more lenient parent. So I don't always want to be bad cop. So sometimes you have to step up and do this, which he's doing more and more. So it's good. So the balance comes from, I don't know. I mean, I guess I've just learned to be patient with my son. I lose it sometimes. Definitely. I'm not the perfect parent at all.
I don't think anybody is. So that's, that's fine.
No. But, there's a lot of advice out there. And I just think, well, you do the best you can, with the tools that you have. I try to, I don't know. I mean, I tried to help him with like the things that are my strong point, I mean, he just had to do a project for school that was like a video project. And because this is basically what I spend my whole existence doing with all the tours and the marketing, I was able to help him with that. My husband's going to help him with something that makes more sense for him. So we try to divide and conquer in a way. This is your strong point. You do this. I can't do this. So, I'm not a teacher. More power to you for doing the homeschooling, because I already knew the pandemic taught me one thing for sure. I am not a teacher. And every teacher needs a raise right now.
Yes. I do think that teachers are definitely underappreciated. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. It's a challenge. I do think, like, for us, I think incorporating and allowing them to have some of that structure and like figuring out how they learn best has been really helpful. So like, for instance, I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and the younger two, obviously, we don't do anything with yet. But my 5-year-old, she's really good about sitting down and just doing workbooks. Like, you just do it with her. She loves it. And, we do that. And then my 3-year-old, she has zero patience. Like, a workbook would not work for her. But she has been playing Mario games and beating them since she was like 2 years old. So she loves video games. Yeah, she's great at them. So we got a tablet and put some educational games on them, and she's like learning her phonics and learning her letters and numbers and colors and all those things just by playing games. And so it's, for me at least, I found that like it definitely helps to kind of figure out like, how does this person learn and what kind of things do they enjoy and how can we combine those two into creating an environment that like actually allows them to learn well and be excited and happy to be learning. But it definitely takes a lot of like working with your children to figure that out,
But see, if I tie this back to my tour, so what you said is like teachers can't do, well, for the most part, I think most teachers in most classic school environments cannot do what you're mentioning, because you've got 25 kids. And you have to sit there, and each kid has a different way of learning. How are you supposed to do this? And it's true that Jack needs you to sit there and maybe hold his hand a little bit for a while. But if you're doing that with Jack, then what happens to Jill or to Kamal over there, who's like, okay, what about me? And the smaller the group size or smaller the class size, the more manageable it is. And the more, the easier it is to deal with stuff when stuff doesn't go the way you planned. Like if the weather is suddenly horrible and you had planned this big outdoor thing, and now you have 25 people that you've got to move around. That's a lot. That's a lot. So I think that it's another one of the reasons why I stick with smaller groups. Just to be able to let people go at their pace.
Yes. And I agree. Like, as soon as you were saying no more than 8, I was like, that's perfect, because, I agree 100%. And that's part of like the reason why we chose to homeschool was our kids can have that one-on-one and have that flexibility of what works best for them. And so, by doing the groups that you're doing in a small group where it's no more than 8, exactly like you said, it's like you can kind of tailor it more to that specific group. People can have more personal experiences. They can have, you can have more flexibility in the schedule. It's so much easier to help people when there's only 8 of them, right? Versus a 30 people group where half of them need help. You can't do that. So I agree. I think that that's definitely the way to do it. And so if you were to, we'll kind of have a couple more questions and then we'll wrap this up.
Okay.
But if you were to give anybody some advice who wants to travel and kind of see some cultures and, eat their way around the world, what would be your piece of advice for them?
I would say if you can and you speak the language, or even if you can't and you can find the phrase, ask your taxi driver where to eat. Because, sometimes you will, if you ask at the hotel front desk, say you're staying at a hotel, you ask at the hotel front desk, they may have a list already that they're supposed to give you, possibly. But you just ask somebody, it's like, oh, what's good to eat around here? And we did that sometimes to people on the street, because I'm like, well, I don't know where to go. So what's a good place to go? Or what's like a local dish? Ask the waiter. I mean, because you look at the menu and you're like, oh, there's a whole bunch of stuff on here that I don't understand. So so I'd like to try something that's local. Go where the locals eat, which may not necessarily be everything that's in your guidebook. If you see them there, they're more locals than there are tourists, then it's likely a good find. So that's one thing. And the other thing is just to be open-minded, to not, it's not home, meaning it's not like your home. Don't expect it to be exactly like your home. So if in Japan, the trains leave exactly on time. In your home, they probably don't. So that if it's like the train is at 4:00, don't think that at 4:01 you're going to catch the train. It's gone. It's away. But then in another place, it might be the complete reverse. You're like, the train is at 4:00. It didn't leave until 4:30. Or they just changed the information. So you kind of have to roll with the punches. You have to be flexible.
Mhm.
Don't plan every minute of every day,
Mm.
because you have to leave room to just take it in. You have to leave room for whatever could happen. There's a downpour or whatever it is, especially if you're doing it with kids. Oh my God,
Yeah.
please leave
Yeah.
yourself space, because
Yeah.
you need it. You need it. For every intense day that you have, give yourself a day off. And
Mhm.
treat yourself to something too. I mean, I had a massage in Lima. I was like,
Yeah.
massage, please. Like,
Yeah.
like I need a break.
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah. And alone time is okay too. So even when you're
Mhm.
traveling with your family, like if you're going to be traveling with your 4 kids, you have 4.
Yes.
So your 4 kids and your husband, it's okay to go, I'm just going to go for a walk.
Yeah.
I just need, it's fine.
Mhm.
It's okay. In fact, you'd probably be a better person to
Right.
them
Yeah.
if you do that. So
Yeah.
that was more than one piece of advice, but those are the things that I would recommend to anybody who wants to do any traveling to discover cultures and
Mm.
oh yes, no, here's a really big one, very, very important one. Take a cooking class or a food tour, and make sure you do it at the start. So if you decided to snob me and not come on one of my wonderful tours and you're doing it by yourself, it's okay. But I still say that you need to book into a food tour or a cooking class, because you're going to get insight into what the local dishes are. So when you hit the restaurant, you already know. You're also going to get recommendations. You're going to ask the chef or the people organizing it, hey, do you know I'm staying in this neighborhood. Do you have any tips for me? And
Yeah.
very likely they have some. And they
Yeah.
won't only be limited to food. They'll be able to tell you lots of things that you can do.
Yeah.
They might tell you that, oh, that bus does not run. I don't know why your book told you that bus runs on Sunday, because it doesn't,
Yeah.
little,
Yeah.
little things like that. So that's probably the big one. It's like always try to find some kind. You don't have to be a cook or anything like that. Try to find a tasting experience or a cooking experience and do it at the beginning.
Yeah. I love that. That's so true too, because like you said, they'll be able to give you that insight. You'll already know the dishes. You'll already know like what places around to try. So that's a really good tip. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you were to talk to a mom who's starting her own business, what would be your piece of advice for her?
Make friends. Make friends
Yeah.
on all levels. Make friends with somebody who can pick your kid up from school because you're running late because you're on a call or something like that. Have people. You need a support system. Find a business group if you can find one. Find a co-working space if you can find one. People who are going to be able to support you. You do not have to do it alone. There are a lot of solopreneurs out there. There's a lot of women's business groups, and you need to find them. And because they have great ideas, they will share their ideas with you. And if they're not sharing their ideas with you, then find another group, because, most groups will. I mean, that's the whole idea. It's like, because you might be able to give them some insight. Look for Facebook groups look for Facebook groups, or look for something on Meetup, or, wherever it is you are. So I definitely think making friends and discovering who your allies are is the key to your success. And also cut yourself a break. If you don't get it done, it's okay. It might just take you longer for your business to grow to where you want it to go, but that's okay too. So that's one of the things that my business mentor was always reiterating to us. It's nice to look at what somebody else is doing, but you're not them. They're not living your life, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So if you got 4 kids and you're trying to grow a business at the same time, know that you may not grow that business as fast as somebody who's got no kids, or one kid, or whose kid is older. But it doesn't mean it won't grow. Just cut yourself a break and divide your tasks as you can, as they fit into your real day.
Yeah. So I help moms build up businesses. So I'm a coach that helps mom build businesses. And that's one of the things that we start off with is what does your lifestyle look like already?
Mm-hmm.
Because integrating a business into that is it depends on each person so much, and like we could sit there and hit it, with 80 hours a week and have you, bounce off of this and go straight into making really, really good money. But that's just not practical for most moms. And that's why like having that specialized, working with people who understand like moms. And like you said, it's like having that community of people so important. So I agree, because a lot of times like moms have that extra challenge that they have to go through of I don't have all the time in the world to do everything. And the time I do have is going to be interrupted by children or, babies who are crying because they're fighting sleep, or, your 11-year-old who has to go get picked up from school, Yeah. And so it's like really working through all of those challenges and coming up with something that like actually works for them is so crucial, because I see that all the time where moms get this burnt out state where they're like, I'm not growing fast enough. I'm not making money. I don't know what to do. It's like, well, let's take a step back first. Let's see what's going on in your life. How can we kind of optimize, like you said, with the cleaning list? That's something that I do. Create a cleaning chore. Like I have everything organized out to the T, because I'm like, otherwise nothing would get done, So it's like, I've got cleaning lists. I've got, homework assignment lists. I've got, my business calendar, my home calendar, and then it all interlaps, my husband's schedule, my schedule, kids' schedules. And yeah, it's a lot to manage. And so I think just setting those expectations from the beginning, I think is so important, where it's like, this is my life. This is what it really is. And what can I really actually expect from a sustainable point of view, right? And having the friendships and having the people around you that can help support you through that. I agree. I think that's such a good tip.
Yep.
Did you have anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up? And also, how can people find you? So let's make sure we touch on that too.
Well, I mean, the world is a big world, and and life is short. I've said carpe diem ever since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Seize the day, because you never know what tomorrow will bring. And I say, if there's a place you want to go, find a way to get there. Sometimes it means making a few sacrifices, so you're not going to get that new iPhone or whatever. What's more important to you? Your experiences are going to live with you longer than the life of that phone. So
right. Yeah.
go out there and experience life, gift each other experiences. Stop gifting each other all these objects that, what do we do with, or they become obsolete tomorrow.
Yeah.
And to find me, very simple. You just have to go to letseattheworld.com. And send me a message at info@letseattheworld.com. And also, like I said, I am marketing director for the French cooking school. So it's cookingwithclass.com, and it's at COOKN with class.com. I look forward to seeing some of you in the future, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have those links in the description as well, so people can easily click on them. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And I'm telling you, I'm thinking, Mama of 4. Yeah, go you.
We got this, right?
You got it. You definitely got this.